Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're going to talk about the Stamina Nightblade PvE builder Rampage for Morrowind. Stamblades are in a pretty good situation. This patch they have insanely high single target. In the first part of the video I want to talk about the basics. Second part I want to talk about resource management, what kind of options you have, and I will also show you off the rotation, which is a little bit difficult on a Stamblade because there's a few options to take care of. Let's just look at the stats first. I do not have the best in slot gear, like I have 6-1 and I use swords. Like a dagger and the axe obviously would be better and you would have a little bit more weapon crit. But the stats overall are pretty nice. We are using the Thief Mundus Stone. We are a vampire. Vampires are nice because supernatural recovery and we get the undeath. Just make sure if you're in a dungeon that has a lot of fire damage, probably decrease the vampire stage to level 1 so you don't get any extra damage from fire. In terms of buff food, we are using the normal max health, max stam buff food, and we're using the weapon power pots. You can also use this one, I will get into that later. In terms of gear, we have 5 pieces Two-Fanged Snake, 5 pieces Vicious. Now this set is still like insanely strong in terms of damage, so I highly recommend using it. I do have alternative and easy to get gear options on my website in case you do not have access to this set. Then we have Vicious Serpent. Now this is also a really strong set because it gives you 8% cost reduction. Every time you kill somebody you get 2100 stamina and you get 126 extra weapon damage from the 5 piece. So this is insanely strong. Now, I do know it is very hard to get weapons, like obviously a dagger and the axe sharpened, or like a dagger sharpened and the axe infused would be better, but I also don't have them because like the drops are so seldom. So I just use my 2 swords. Yes, I lose like bleed and crit damage, but I don't have any other option. We have full weapon damage here, and then we're also using the Maelstrom Bow, really strong. Now in terms of monster set, you see like if you can run 7 medium because it gives you more crit, and more crit is better for stamina setups. Selene has really strong single target damage. Like if you want, you also could use Valley Dref if you want a more AoE damage. But for example, Selene on single target on target dummy here, it can do up to 3k damage. It's insane. Plus it constantly procs because we have a lot of direct damage abilities. All divines if possible. That's about the setup. Now in terms of champion points, 44 warlord, 1 sprinter. Like I just put as many in Mooncalf as possible, and tenacity. Those here are the more important ones. So we have 49 here, 29 piercing. Now in a raid you don't necessarily need this, but like when you run an infused weapon you want about 29 points here. If you are on double sharpened, maybe you don't need any points here. It's kind of personal preference, you need to test out a little bit. Then we have 48 into precise strikes. You need 48 here and 56 in Thaumaturge. And then we have 28 in Masters at Arms. Now again, this is not final, like just play around a little bit. Maybe you want a little bit more damage here because we have quite a lot of direct damage abilities. Then 61 Ironclad, 2 Spell Shield, 49 Thick-Skinned. Oh actually, no, that's incorrect. You can put 3 here because 48 are enough because of jump points. And then 49 Hardy, 49 Elemental Defender. The most important ones are here. Most champion point perks have a jump point. I will put the, like I have on my website, there's a list of them. I can put it into the description so you can go check it out. Maybe understand what I mean by that. In terms of skills, let's start with the back bar. It's basically always the same for stamina setups. Endless Hail, Rearming Trap, Poison Injection and Razor Cult Drops. Those are the most important ones. We always want to make sure to keep those up. So every time, like when Endless Hail gets to like 2 seconds and I'm on the front bar, the moment it hits 2, I weapon swap and reapply the stuff again. Leeching Strikes. Now this gives us a little bit of resource management. If you want to do more heavy attacks, then you actually don't even need this, because it doesn't give that much stamina back. But it's still kind of helpful. Ballista, probably the strong single target ultimate at the moment, so I recommend using that. Rending Slashes on the front bar. We have Deadly Cloak here. Now this is really strong because it gives us 25% AoE damage reduction. So this is really good, and it's a must-have. It also deals decent damage. Surprise Attack, this is our spammable. Hits really hard. Killer's Blade, our execute. So basically, the moment the enemy reaches 25%, make sure to use Killer's Blade instead of Surprise Attack. And Relentless Focus. So the Spectral Bow, they changed it a little bit. Now, you can basically use it twice before it runs out, but it needs a little bit of practice, because it's still kind of tricky, especially when you have to weapon swap in the wrong moment and then it runs out while you're on the back bar and all that kind of stuff. And we have In-Cap Strike, when especially in the execute, very useful. If you want, you can use Flawless Thronebreaker here instead of In-Cap for AoE damage. It's another option that you have. However, I actually like this here, because most boss fights, especially in trials, are quite long, and then our abilities get boosted pretty hard. That's just my 2 things. Now in terms of resource management, like I said, I use light attacks on the back bar and I use heavy attacks on the front bar. They are pretty fast, as you can see, because you can animation cancel them pretty well. Now, if you don't want to do heavy attacks at all, you could run the Cameron Throne. If you run this, just make sure to get, like, you have to put some points into the health attribute or get the health enchantment, so you get like 17k health. That's the important thing. More or less, that's actually enough for resource management. You don't really need more, because you also have the Leeching Strikes, which also help. And I didn't find a lot of problems. Because you're melee, you also will have constantly spears or orbs on the bosses, which you can activate to get resources back. And that more or less solves all the issues. Now in terms of rotation, so like I said, the back bar is the most important thing, because you want to keep up all the dots. So when I use the trap, I use Endless Hail, Poison Injection, always a light attack between every skill. And when we get to the front bar, we activate Rending Slashes and Deadly Cloak if we need. And the moment the bow procs, you want to use it. Once Endless Hail runs out, you swap back. So when we do this fast, it kind of looks like this. When the bow procs, you use the bow. Then 2 seconds, we weapon swap again. I always swap when I have 2 seconds on my Endless Hail. Now the tricky part is, if you have enough experience, you can get 2 Relentless Focus off, like the Spectral Bow. If not, you probably need more practice. When do I start doing heavy attacks? So basically when I reach like 30 to 40%, instead of light attacks on the front bar, I start using heavy attacks. So as long as I weave here, you see it's still pretty fast, the heavy attacks. Then when the Endless Hail runs out, we reapply this. If you still don't have enough stamina, maybe you can like not use cult drops for one rotation, because cult drops are very expensive. So that's also a way how you can manage your resources and all that kind of stuff. That's basically it about the build. I will do separate DPS tests, like I have the playlist there where I upload DPS tests and all that kind of stuff if you're interested. But that's it for now. If you do have any questions, please ask me in the comment section below. Thank you for watching and have a nice day. Cheers.